The next thing I wanted to talk about was HTML5 video. I know it's one of the larger areas in regards to the HTML5 spec, where we now support video and audio using native tags. What this means is that if you are running IE9, Chrome, Firefox, later versions of the browsers, you're able to play video natively within the browser without having to have a plugin installed. Let's have a look at what that actually looks like. If I come here into youtube.com, you can actually go to youtube.com/HTML5, and this will load up this page here. And down the bottom, you can click this button to enter the HTML5 trial if your browser supports is one of the browsers listed above. Now once you're in this trial, it's going to serve you video in HTML5 format natively instead of actually as a Flash plugin. You'll notice that there's a few different browsers supported here. Unfortunately, there's some history going on in regards to codecs, and currently Safari, Apple, iPad, iPhone support H.264 as the native video codec option, and Firefox, Chrome, and Opera support a format called WebM, which is actually set up by Google in response to when they purchased or when they acquired On2, which is a codec company, and their codec VP8, which they're in the process of actually releasing through this WebM video group. Now, other formats that are supported in there is OGG Video, OGV, which is another open source video format. IE9, we support H.264 natively inside of the browser, and we also support WebM if you have the codec installed. So I'll show you that a little later. So now I've actually opted into the HTML5 trial. What happens is if I visit a page, this is actually a video page here, this is a video that I've published up, you'll notice that I've got support for a couple of formats. This one's actually playing back in MP4 or H.264 at 1080p. I can also go right down to sort of 360p. If I was to press F12 and bring up my dev tools inside of IE9, so F12 will always bring up these dev tools. With IE9 we've actually added a new network capturing tool, so I can start capturing here, and I can actually come back to that browser window and play this video again. And what you'll notice is that oh sorry, I need to reload this this video page. And what you'll notice is when I reload this page and play this video, we'll see that being captured over here in this window. And this is the MP4 file that's being served to me by Google. And the other thing that's worth mentioning is that right now with HTML5 video, there is no way to secure the video content. It's actually that part of the specification for HTML5 video is that it's open web, very much like an image file that's on the web today. So you will just download that file as video-mp4, and that's available to you within your cache or natively on your machine. It's for this reason that sites like TVNZ On Demand or Netflix are not going to be moving away from Flash or Silverlight or those sort of plug-in videos because it doesn't support protecting the content which studios are looking for, and there's also no option for doing live video using the HTML5 video spec either. It needs to be downloaded to the machine on demand, as you see here. So now here's my video coming from YouTube. If I go to detailed view, I can actually see the format of that video. You'll notice that it's come through as an MP4 video, and then what I can also do is go to my response body and save this video out to my machine. So if I call this video playback.mp4, if I was to actually then bring that up and have a look at that where I've saved that down, here's my video, and I can double click that and play that back. So that's the 360p, the lower resolution version. Now if I was to do the same thing in Firefox, so if I was in Firefox 4, this is actually going to be serving not H.264 video because Firefox doesn't support it, but this time they're going to serve WebM video. And you notice currently I press play. Again, it's an HTML5 video experience, and this time it's playing the WebM video. Notice also that Google's frantically been re-encoding every video on YouTube into the WebM format alongside the the H.264 formats that they already had published. Another thing of note is that on the IE example with H.264, there is actually a 1080p video, which is the highest resolution I uploaded, but on the Firefox version, the WebM version, the highest they make available is 720p video. But that's just as semantics, and it gives you the idea that you can play the video back in this way. To illustrate the different approaches, we've released a new page on our test site, which is called here, which is the video format support. So if you go to the IE test drive site and then you click on the link for video format support, what we're doing is we're showing what native video can be played back in the browser. So if we have a look here, this is actually running from IE9. You'll notice that there's a high profile MP4 file here, which I can start playing back. There's a baseline profile, so this is a lower resolution MP4 video, and there's a flash video as well, and we can start playing all of these videos out and experience those within the browser. So I'll just pause those so that we're not playing off too much content. If I was to come over to Firefox and bring up the same page, you'll notice that because Firefox doesn't support H.264, those videos won't play, and I haven't got Flash installed either, so it needs Flash to actually play the video here. But it can play this native WebM video that we saw play back inside of YouTube. So if I press the play button there, the WebM video should play back. And there's the WebM video coming through. Now, I mentioned you could get WebM video support inside of IE as well, and the way to do this is to actually install the WebM project codec. So if I click that link there, this is actually the Media Foundations component for IE9. It's currently a preview release, and if I visit this download page, this has been made available by Google, and I can actually install the WebM for IE9. Be aware that as soon as you actually do this step and install this component, what it's going to do is from now on YouTube's actually going to serve IE9 WebM video and not serve H.264 video anymore. Chrome is actually also removing the H.264 codec from future versions of the Chrome browser. So Google's trying very hard to standardize on this new WebM format. The challenge with that is there's not a lot of tools for actually encoding into WebM, and it's also not hardware accelerated on the native platform. So when you start playing WebM video, it's not going to switch to the GPU to give you that hardware accelerated experience that you do get natively with H.264. So now I've installed that, I can actually reload this page, and what I should see now is that IE9 will start to play the WebM video that we have as well. So here we go, loading up the H.264 and also loading the WebM, and I can play inside IE9 the WebM video, just as if I was playing the H.264. So that's playing both the WebM and the H.264. And as I mentioned, if I go back to YouTube and reload this page here and bring up my DevTools again, what you'll notice this time is that YouTube is no longer serving me a H.264 file, it's now serving me a video WebM file. And if I was to click on to the detailed view, look at the request headers and the response body, if I save this video out, it's actually now going to save out a .webm video, which is a different format down onto my machine. So something to be aware of, but it's certainly interesting times in regards to the video support. So I'll just close that, and I'll close my browser here. So what happens if you want to start to incorporate HTML5 into your own websites? Well, one of the things that we have actually done is if you open up the Web PI, so that this is the Web Platform Installer, the Web Platform Installer, for those who aren't familiar, is the best way to get the web framework if you're working with a Microsoft platform. So this works on the server and on the client, and you can load up pretty much any of the applications that you need to get started. So if I go into products and I go server, these are a lot of the server components that you can have. Here's a lot of the frameworks that you might like: MVC3, .NET Framework 4. PHP for Windows, different databases that you want, so SQL CE Compact Edition, this is the new version 4, SQL Express, some of those areas, and also tools, so the free web development tools. And what I wanted to specifically call out here is we've recently released Visual Studio 2010 Service Pack 1. Now, I haven't got that installed yet, but once you do install it, what it gives you is it gives you IntelliSense support for HTML5 and CSS3. So once it's installed, you can go in and turn that on, and inside Visual Studio, you'll now have the IntelliSense and the hinting for the new syntax for the new items. Also, if you've got Expression Web 4, we've just released Service Pack 1, which gives you the tools for creating new styles, border radius, CSS3, HTML5, with full IntelliSense as well. So there's a good example, an update to the Super Preview to include IE9 and some of the HTML5 stuff as well. So definitely, if you're doing front-end web development, take a look at both Service Pack 1 with HTML5 IntelliSense and Expression Web 4 Service Pack 1 as well. So when I come back over into my project, what I wanted to do now was show you how to incorporate video into the application. So down here, the new tags, I'm just going to drag in a new tag here. What you'll notice is this is the new tag, which is just basically video. Now the same thing is there's another version of the tag, which is audio. And if I have this area called controls, what that's going to do is load the browser's native controls for me. If I miss that out, it won't have any controls at all, no play, pause, scrubbing, etc. I can also overwrite that using style sheets and CSS to create my own player experience. I give it a default width here, and then I also just call up the source of the video files themselves. So you'll notice that I'm actually calling to two video files, a .mp4 and a .ogv. This is to cater for the different browser support that's there. Now what it will do is call the first one, it'll ask the browser if it can play it, and then it'll fall back to the next video support if the browser can't play or doesn't have that codec installed. I'm hosting these on Windows Azure in the blob storage, which is actually a really good place for putting video content. And I'm using this thing here called Azure Storage Explorer to visualize my files up on Windows Azure Blob. The thing to be aware of is that the MIME type for the video is really important. If you're installing this on IIS or you're doing it as part of your web project, you've got to make sure that you map the MIME type video-mp4 to the .mp4 extension. This can be done either on the server or through the web config file. And then we specifically call out which codec is in there, because there are different codecs supported within that that wrapper or that that container type. Over here, if I was to actually bring back up my Explorer window, when you automatically upload files to Windows Azure Blobs, they don't have their content type set by default. So you actually have to log into the Storage Explorer and then go into the properties and change the content type to match the content type of the file. If you don't do this, it's going to have application octet kind of stream, and the browser will not know what to do with it, or it won't interpret that video file correctly. Now I've got that set up here. Inside here is what's going to happen if the browser can't play HTML5 video or doesn't recognize the video tag. So what we need is a fallback solution for the browser when it comes up against that scenario. So the way to do fallback, I'll just bring up some examples here. I really like the JW Silverlight player. And the reason I like the Silverlight player by JW is that it doesn't need to be compiled, and it's just using Silverlight 1, so it's a single page of XAML with a little bit of JavaScript to control the player experience. And it can also play the H.264 file with hardware acceleration if the Silverlight client's installed. So this is an example of it here. And you can just download and call it according to the script examples that they give you. So I've previously downloaded the JW player, and what I can do is I can actually add here as content the existing items from the player. So I add my JavaScript and my XAML file, so these three files here. Make sure that I actually set these to copy local. Oops, no, I don't need to set them to copy local, sorry. But what I do need to do is make sure the XAML type is set as content as opposed to compile, because what we don't want to do is compile this. I actually just want this to be content and served up by my web server. So now I can actually change that to content and save that. And then I just put inside of here a little bit of code which is going to give me my my Silverlight experience. So just drag that in here. And what this is going to do is call up the JavaScript and give me that fallback, calling exactly the same MP4 video that we saw before if the browser doesn't support HTML5 video. So let's have a look at this. I've deployed this one out onto the web as well in the same B1 Tribe site that we had before. You'll notice that it's coming back here, and this is actually the native experience. So I press play and it's playing my tilt shift video I shot around Auckland in the MP4 format. If I press F12, go to network and start capturing, and then reload that page, you'll see that the MP4 video is being served. So here the MP4 video is coming down and being played by the browser. If I was to close that and load this up inside of Firefox, and then press play, again the native video is playing back. If I press F12 and have a look inside of Firebug what's going on, I just want to start checking the net view here. Sorry, net panel activated. So if I load this one here, reload this one, we can now see this coming through in Firebug. And if I have a look at this example here, you'll notice it's getting the OGG video and playing that back from my store. So this is from my Windows Azure blob storage, and the type of video down here is Windows OGG. So that's effectively the same experience, but with the other video type to cater for Firefox. If I come back in here and I press the compatibility mode, what this is going to do is flick between the IE9 rendering engine and the IE8 rendering engine. And you'll notice now that it's using the Silverlight client, and if I press play, it's actually going to play back exactly the same MP4 file as we had before, but it's going to do that inside of Silverlight. So this is just giving us a different experience. So all in all, you should definitely start considering using HTML5 video where it makes sense. It will give you more reach to mobile clients and out to areas, things like iPad and iPhone. And you can do things like, say, minimum width and then serve up a low-res version which goes out to a mobile client. Some examples that I'm starting to see that are taking this a little bit further. So if we go to the IE test drive site, and there's another example here which is pretty interesting. So I think it's on Beauty of the Webs, which actually takes a single video and cuts it up to create this experience. Can do things like look at the beatboxing, look at the vocal harmony, look at the high guitar, or the synth or the bass. And if I look at this one running, reload this page, what you'll notice is that it's bringing down a bunch of SVG and PNG. So SVG for the volume controls, and this is our video here. And if we go to the detail view and save this video out, what you'll notice is this is actually just one big video with all of those components that we're seeing, and then the site itself is cutting that video into the little squares and displaying each of the squares. Now this is a common technique if you're doing synchronization video of multiple sources, but it's great to see that it can be applied using Canvas SVG and video. So really we're getting to a point where for free open video on the web, there's some great tooling and support coming along.